welcome. I'm Psychic Medium Roberto, and I truly hope you're doing well today. In this episode 2 of ET Encounters, we'll be looking at the couple of famous cases in this episode. The Whitley Strieber case in New York, and that incident spawned the movie Communion, which was acted by Christopher Walken. And then we still have a missing case of Frederick Valentich, if I pronounced that correctly, which was an incident in Australia, and he is still missing today. And then we'll be looking at the Kecksburg incident, also a famous case in Pennsylvania, 1965. And I can also reveal I have found a new clue in numerology when there are encounters. All right, so let's get into it. So we're going to start with Whitley's case. Famous author who penned the book Communion, A True Story. And the movie Communion resonates with me in that when I had my CE4 Encounter back in 96, 97, resources available in those days was the video store where I was working at the time, as well as the general library. So there was very little information available in those days in South Africa. So what I did was actually watch his movie to see if there's anything I can relate to. And I must say, having a look at some of the aliens that were in the movie, these dark little creatures, that's actually what I saw. Exactly very similar to what I'm seeing here. The only difference is, and this is the picture I'm showing on the left here with the dark characters, the only difference is one of them had like a luminous green, and one of them was emitting like a, let's call it a luminous red color. So very odd, very strange, but they looked exactly like these little characters, very similar actually. So let's look at his incident. His incident was reported as being December 26th. Now we're looking at the green block. December 26, 1985. Now, in the first episode, I mentioned there already were common numbers like the 16-7, which is the human, number 6, and the being is the 7. And also, I started picking up, and I mentioned in the previous episode, 11-2, okay? Now, I'll get into that just now because I believe I found a sequence of power numbers in these events as well, which is very important actually. So if we look, let's start with the day that the incident happened. Now I've circled that 11-2. Now I believe that is where contact is made with the human and with the being, and we see there December 27, the next day, the presence of the 12-3. Now that 12-3, like I mentioned in crime cases, is about kidnapping and abduction. So we have an abduction number there. We also have the 27-9, 9 higher being. And there's physicalness involved when you're dealing with an outcome 8, the physicalness. And it's reflected there on December 28, which I made a note. Contact between two, literally the number 2, biological, the number 8, forms. So there was contact between two biological forms, and those forms are from a group, which is the 10, and the 1 would be the individual. Now you'll note that the outcome 1 on December 28, now this is shadowing what took place on the 26th, right? So we see that 1 pings directly on Whitley. And again, we have the presence of the mass 40 with an outcome 4, which is Earth mass, human mass, and that is the presence, or let's say indicating the presence of life forms on Earth. Okay, and we see that then, of course, on December the 30th, we find that 33. So we see the gateway, what I'm calling the gateway number, December 24th. We have the presence of the 9 where it sits in the middle, with the alignment of similar numbers, and in this case 5. Now I want to draw your attention to the sample that I've put there on the bottom right. and this is a lead up to explaining the significance of the power numbers which are present, and I found them in the previous episode as well. And in the three cases we're discussing today, I'll show you the importance of these power numbers. All right, so let's have a look at that sample. So when I put out the dates on the top line, middle line, and the outcome, on the top line refers to midnight to 6 a.m. The middle outcome, the middle line, is from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. So that's what we experience throughout the day. And the outcome then would be from sunset, let's call it 6 o'clock, to midnight. Okay, so that is very important to how I'm going to explain why I believe these power numbers are important as well. So if we go back a few days, we note on December 21, the outcome of that day is an 11-2. Okay, now that 11 is a power number. Now I believe in the case of alien abductions or alien contacts, that 11 is very important because it's two beings, let's call it two beings coming together, two people coming together, right? Or two life forms coming together. Okay, now what's interesting is December 21 ends. So when we get to midnight, we have an 11-2. Now what's important on that December 22nd, that the following day starts with a power number as well. The 22 which is the number of the day, is when we start. So when we wake up in the morning, we start with a 22-4. Now what I find interesting is that the December 21, we end on a power number, and we start the following day on a 22-4, another power number, 22. Now, having meditated on this, and again, we will continue developing this as we go, but I certainly found the sequence, I believe it will pertain to an energy flux in the universe. Okay, very interesting that numerology is picking up these encounters, and in fact, making it very clear what has happened. I've noticed that the more historical events, like the 40s, 50s, and 60s, which we're going to see in this episode, tends to give a clearer picture of what was actually happening around people. So overall, what I'm seeing here is that leading up to the gateway sequence, we have power number influence. Now we'll note on December the 23rd, we have a mass of 3 5s there. So if you compare the 3 5s, how they're positioned compared to December the 24th, there's definitely a non-alignment happening the day after. So I believe there might have even been some kind of issue even getting into the universe, let's put it this way, into our universe, right? So which was achieved then on the 24th of December. And of course, we then see the build-up. Now, if we go to the second case, which is Frederick Valentich, excuse my pronunciation. Now, this was a famous case as well in the Australia, that Frederick was flying his plane. Apparently, he was being a bit mischievous. He didn't plan his flight path or didn't disclose his flight path. Whatever he was doing, this gentleman has never been found. And let's have a look at what happened here. This is quite an interesting one, and we have the same situation with the power number end and start energy flux happening as well there. Huh? So we note on October 17, we see the gateway code 9 with alignment of 7. Okay. Now, interesting, on October 18, we see the presence of the 9, which is also important, and the presence and the build-up of mass numbers like the number 10. So as we approach the day of the incident, which was October 21, 1978, we are seeing a gradual and then a major increase in mass numbers. So if we look at October 20, 10, 20, 30, and 10 again, this is very unusual in the context of these accounts, right? Or at least, or let's put it this way, the numbers are telling us there's a massive flux of mass in the universe, on Earth, which is unusual. And we see the outcome of October 21, right, is the 11-2. Now, when we look at those power numbers, the day ends on 11-2 of the incident, and the day after we have a power number again, 22-4. There's definitely some mass of energy going on as well. I don't know, taking him into the craft. Now, what's interesting here, and actually this is a bit of alarming, and I don't mean to be an alarmist or conspiracy theorist at all, but while meditating on these numbers and looking at it, I believe Frederick had a very bad outcome here, unfortunately, okay? So we go to October the 22nd, the presence of the power number 22-4, that's human mass. Then we see the 32-5. I believe, unfortunately, and I did get confirmation on this, that Frederick would have been operated on. Now that 32-5, under, let's call it standard numerology, 32-5 is about destruction. Okay, we saw that number when we were looking at the Ukraine-Russian war, when the war started, destruction. So I believe he was operated on and taken apart or investigated in a research lab, 12-3. So when we get to October 23, we have the presence of the 33-6, which, having meditated on this, is exploration of the human body. Okay, so these guys were definitely experimenting, and I've just received confirmation again. They were definitely experimenting on him. Now, I believe this is what I felt and was given when I meditated on this yesterday. I believe as a result of this experience, Frederick died. Okay. Now, I believe the cause of death was obviously the stress on the body, but I believe he may have had a stroke during this encounter. Okay. Whatever was being done to him was too much for the human body to comprehend. Okay. And it will make sense when we get to October 25. Now, we see the mass of sevens, they're not in alignment, so that already tells me chaos. There's a problem. Now, if we look at it from a human in an operation point of view, there's respiratory issues, there's air issues, and the message that I got, Fred died inside the UFO. The ETs tried to revive him. They were confused that he died. This could have been due to the stroke he may have suffered, which is kind of a, I don't know, if the brain goes, the brain goes. I'm no medical scientist or doctor, but that could be a reason why they could not resuscitate him, in inverted commas. So, and we see the gateway open again and disappear October 26. There's the gateway 977. So unfortunately, I believe Frederick would have died from this encounter, and he would have definitely been experimented on. Very concerning, and it went awry. And we have the 2 consecutive days of chaos, the 3 sevens, definitely chaos happening around there. And then they leave with the alignment of 7. So unfortunately, I believe this is quite a sad case that, yeah, Frederick definitely died within 2 days of making contact, or them making contact with Fred. Now, the third encounter, which is the famous Kecksburg incident, Pennsylvania. Now, we have a similar case in the first episode where we have a crash incident, okay? And very interesting that we see the chaos in the numbers, and we see that the alignment of the power numbers is out. All right, so let's go back a few steps. I believe the crash site was December the 9th, I believe. Okay, so if we go back to December 6th, we see the presence of the, let's call it the gateway, 9, and the alignment of 3s, okay? And we start seeing the build-up with the 10. All right, and then December 8th, we see again increase of mass, 20. That when we get to December 9, now this will validate the crash, right? We are seeing mass of 3s, and I spoke about this in the previous episode, that 3 from a control point of view is about control, But when you have that amount of threes all together, that is out of control, and the fireball or crash is the number 6. So the incident there is validated from a numerology point of view that the vessel was out of control. It crashed in a fiery blaze, okay? Now we get to December 10 and 11. Now these guys, there was definitely an issue here. Of course, they could not travel. So we see, now had that on December 10, had the 22-4 been as the outcome, they would have been able to get out of that situation. But we see that the power numbers are not aligned, and the impression that I got, in inverted commas, door closed. There's no way out, right? So this, very interesting that we have the gateway sequence. We see the presence of the mass of numbers, and we of course see the out of control nature. Now, having researched a little bit, I didn't want to get too much information, but I came across the issue with John J. Murphy, who at the time I believe was a radio personality, a reporter that had eyewitnessed this situation and died under mysterious circumstances. So obviously, being a true crime enthusiast, I looked at the day that he died, and let's see what happened here. So John is registered as dying on September the 2nd, 1969. And that gives us the outcome 189. Now you'll know from my true crime videos, 189 is murder. And we see that 11-2, which is an injustice, a law had been broken. Okay. And if we go to September the 3rd, which is shadows, what happened? It was about control, the number 3. They were trying to keep control on this issue about aliens. And then we see the 12-3 as keeping control about the alien situation. And we see that presence of the 19-10-1, 9 is murder. So that tells me as well that there were organizations involved in his murder. And I quickly called up one of the prominent organizations who seem to have their noses in everything, the CIA, and all the numbers ping on the CIA. And again, I believe there were more than one organization involved, defense or army, that kind of thing. But definitely, I believe John was murdered. He died as a result of murder. Now, what was quite interesting, when I started this episode, I received this message, which was yesterday, June 20, 2023. And the message I received, there is a power struggle in the world at the moment that causes destruction and mayhem. I just wrote this psychically. Please stop war in Ukraine, Vladimir Putin. Now, it's quite interesting that I got this message. And I must say, I'm always open to messages when I'm doing these shows, and sometimes I don't get messages. But the difference in this message that I received compared to others is the difference in the way that I've highlighted here in orange. Normally my messages are, let's say, in text form, black or white, regular text. I'll see it as you would see a text message. But in this case, and I'm seeing it now again, this message was highlighted with like an orange glow around it. So never seen that kind of messaging before. Interesting. I'll keep monitoring where that source is coming from. Possibly alien, who knows. And confirmed in the date. So this is the message I received yesterday, and confirmed in the date yesterday is the 26/8 message, the number 2 about war. 6 equals communication. All right, so let's hope that war does stop soon. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are on what we've discussed today. I find this very interesting. I definitely found a power number sequence happening on cases as well. So that will be really good. All right, so let me know what your comments are. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this and the new power number sequence. If you haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button and hit that notification icon. I'll just say stay safe, stay alert, and I'll see you in the next one.